I bring you James O'Keefe.
Hello, it's great to be here, and it's amazing to be around people who get it, who understand that when you are effective, you are going to be hated. And they don't play nice, and they don't play fair, they play very, very dirty. And but today, I'm going to show you some videos. I'm going to kind of take you on a very brief journey through what we've been doing. We've been exposing fraud, waste, abuse, and corruption for the last 6 or 7 years. And I want to make sure we do have sound working on this now?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm going to start. I'm going to get right into it. I'm going to show you a video we did at Project Veritas showing hypocrisy of journalists, government officials, in regards to the Second Amendment issue. I don't know if everyone remembers back in, I believe it was January or December, in New York, where I'm from New Jersey, and where I'm from, they had a Westchester newspaper posting all the addresses of the law-abiding gun owners. Does everyone remember that?
Yep.
Okay. Well, they posted the names of these law-abiding gun owners, and we decided to do a little experiment. And all these people were, of course, broadcasting how wonderful gun-free zones were. So we decided to go to the homes of the journalists and ask them to put a sign on their lawn saying, "This home is proudly gun-free." So I'm going to play you the video, and then we're going to talk about it.
We are not afraid.
No guns, no violence.
No guns, no crime.
No guns, no murder.
Guns kill children.
Armed cops, not citizens.
The police will protect us.
Guns make good people do bad things.
Take all guns from everyone.
So no one else is harmed.
Anti-gun is pro-America.
We are not afraid.
Join us.
Tell everyone your house is completely unprotected.
Tell them this is a gun-free zone.
Put a sign in your lawn that says, "No guns here." We're not afraid.
We're defenseless.
We are not afraid.
Join us.
Join us.
Join us.
Because there's strength in numbers.
A suburban New York City newspaper is in the middle of a big controversy this morning after it put up online the names and addresses of everyone with a gun permit.
We also know which houses don't have guns.
Since these reporters and editors did not consider it a violation of the privacy and safety of others to reveal which homes have guns and which homes don't, we went to see which of them would be willing to put up a sign publicly declaring their homes to be gun-free zones. While we didn't find any members of the media with the strength of their convictions, we did find quite a few guns, and some good explanations for why they might be necessary.
So really let the people who kind of lead by example and means
and advertise themselves as proudly, this home is proudly gun-free. Can we put you down for a sign?
In this neighborhood, nobody has put that stuff like that. They actually published a list of all of the gun owners.
We're just doing the same thing, it's just people that don't.
The opposite.
It's just the opposite. So I mean, what's the difference, really?
I do believe in it, but I think I'll pass on it.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, good morning. We're with Citizens Against Senseless Violence. Is this?
I'm sorry, I can't tell. Good luck.
No. You don't care about children? Is this? We're just trying to get people to notice and to see these.
Other reasons I can get into.
Do you have guns? I agree with you, and I am on your side on this, but I'm just wondering if that's not an invitation to somebody with a gun. You know who I am?
I don't know, I want to think about it. I agree with you, but I'm not sure about the sign. For the purposes that you said.
Well, but you're concerned that if you say you're gun-free, somebody with a gun's going to come and...
I think, yeah.
I'm going to put signs out. The problem in this town is somebody driving by around here might think it's seriously, might think it's an invitation to come marching. If it said Citizens Against Senseless Violence, without this home is proudly gun-free, I would put the sign up.
I agree with you in terms of gun control.
I'm sorry, are you the same one that's on TV?
Yeah.
And so then, hey, we can assume that you're not a gun owner yourself and there are no guns there.
No, I'm not against it.
What are the chances we could get something like on this door? I notice it's all like a glass door in the front, something that just says, this building proudly gun-free or something like that.
That I have to talk to my neighbors. I don't honestly don't know what they feel on this issue.
Thank you very much.
Yes, good luck, you guys.
Thank you.
All right.
Hi, we're Citizens Against Senseless Violence. We're going around. This home is proudly gun-free. What does that mean? Well, you're against guns?
Yes.
You're against guns. I'm not. Does that answer your question? Yeah, they put us down on that internet, and they put my wife's name by mistake. You believe that? They're against guns. You're against guns. So I said, I'm not.
So, probably the most incredible thing about this exercise is that the people who are advocating for gun-free zones were making the very exact policy arguments against their own beliefs. And that's why we call what we do veritas. It's Latin for truth. But we actually expose the hypocrisy of people by making them live up to their own principles. This is out of Saul Alinsky's Rules for Radicals. This is one of the Alinsky tactics, is to make the enemy live up to their own book of rules. So what we do, and this is not the only video, we've done 100 videos, is we expose waste, fraud, and abuse, and in this case, hypocrisy. And wouldn't you believe it, that after we made this video, and there's more, but I don't have enough time, we did more of these types of videos. They took down the map of law-abiding gun owners in New York. And I want to show you, people say sort of, James, how'd you get started? How was it really the inception behind this? What was the genesis of this? And the first major story we wrote was actually about this group called Acorn. And this was a group which, Republicans had spent probably hundreds of millions of dollars over the years trying to fight fraud, not only in voter registration fraud, but all different types of fraud. This is an organization that was allocated billions of dollars in the stimulus funding that may have come about in 2009, 2010. So I got a message from a young woman, sent me a Facebook message. She said, James, I love some of your earlier work. What if you went into Acorn and you posed as a prostitute? And I said, that's pretty interesting because they help, they sort of help criminals. They squat foreclosed homes. Maybe they'd help us out. So I said, well, if there's a prostitute, I guess there should be a pimp. And I was going to have my friend be the pimp, but he backed out, so I became the pimp. And I am not the most pimp-like individual. So I actually went up to my grandmother and I said, Grandma, do you have like a fur coat that I could put on? And my grandmother was like, is there something about you I don't know? And I said, just trust me, everything will make sense. And then I showed my grandmother this tape of Jon Stewart. Of all people, Jon Stewart at The Daily Show, who is not the biggest ally of people who support government accountability, but even he could not deny his lying eyes.
As evidenced by this hidden camera investigation of an unlikely duo looking for tax help. Scenario. A young woman pretending to be a prostitute and a man pretending to run for Congress one day walk into Acorn's Baltimore headquarters
and are promptly shown the door.
Is it against the law now? Prostitution?
Anything that the government's not giving money from is always against the law. Let me get somebody that with taxes so they can talk to you. Tom, showing how you make a name.
Ruh-roh, Scooby.
A code of prostitution.
You might have to name it something else. Performance arts. Let's see. Your business is a performing artist. But you are. So you're not lying. So stop saying prostitution.
Got it.
Or you could refer to yourself as a toll booth operator. Genital contractor. Used vagina salesman. What's remarkable is how unfazed the Acorn people are by this question and situation. This is clearly not the first time they've been hearing this. Oh, you're a prostitute and a pimp. You'd like to work through the tax implications of said relationship. Hey, Tanya, get me Form 7D. But I'm sure Acorn has a line that they won't cross.
There's going to be 13 El Salvadorian girls coming into this house, and they're very young, and we don't want to put them on the books.
Please tell me 13 underage Salvadorian sex slaves is the line.
I'll support a possible return into some of the dependent. Because they live in the house.
Are you kidding me? Did you hear what they said? Oh, yeah, what's that, 13? Oh, yeah, a hooker's dozen. Yeah, let me, I'm gonna need another form. By the way, you should try Guatemalans. The shipping charges are half. All right, so this Acorn office has some bad apples, but in Baltimore, I've seen The Wire. The place is dull. You wouldn't see this kind of thing a few miles away at the Acorn office in D.C.?
My girlfriend's a prostitute,
Okay.
and I don't know if
I kind of figured that.
I'm using the money that she's getting. You know what I mean?
Right, but with at least actually you don't know where it's coming from. It's what we're trying to tell you.
All right.
We're looking out for you.
Okay, that's D.C. I've seen C-SPAN. It's all. That would never happen in New York.
You buy the house with a backyard. You put the money right in there over there, but then you better save a soul of yourself where it is.
Wait, a tin, I put the money in a
In the
tin.
tin and push it in there and there. Put the grass over.
Oh, by the way, that reminds me. Hey, kids. If you want to start your own prostitution ring, and they're underage, and you're tired of paying tribute to the government and your pimp, a tin can covered in grass makes a great safety deposit box. You're welcome. And that's the more you wish you didn't know. All right. So, good news, bad news. It's good news, bad news. The bad news, Acorn appears to be a corrupt organization that aids and abets criminals and gets millions of dollars in taxpayer money. The good news is, it seems to be very well run. Good service, no questions left unanswered. If the DMV was run this well, we'd probably have universal health care by now. Well, this is an impressive expose. I would love to know the intrepid journalist who broke this story. 60 Minutes, the AP, that guy who gets the predators.
I'm just telling the whole world you're not a bigger picture. And you played it on those tapes.
Yeah, I'm one of the whitest guys ever.
Are you kidding me? First of all, you don't have to tell us you're a white guy. Your pimp costume appears to be a fur coat on top of your Andover uniform. Second of all, where were the real reporters on this story? You know what, investigative media? Give me a camera 3. Where the hell were you? You know who broke this story? These two. You're telling me the 2 kids from the cast of High School Musical 3 can break this story with a video camera and their grandmother's chinchilla coat, and you got nothing? They did it for $3,000. That's Blizzard's monthly beard wetback budget. it. It probably cost CNN that much just to turn on their hologram machine. I'm a fake journalist, and I'm embarrassed these guys scooped me.
So that was the Acorn investigation, and about 7 days after these tapes were released, Congress and the President, Obama, signed the bill, voted to cut off all funding for Acorn. So, I have probably 20 investigations just like this. Every single one of them has forced a result. It's forced Congress to take action. It's forced a state legislator to take action. It's forced someone to resign. And people are very hopeless right now. People are always asking me, what can we do to change things? And I'm showing you what we can do to change things. You don't have to take my word for it. Things got changed. So what we have to do is we have to do more of this. We have to expose things, not complain about things, but expose them. Because when you expose, even the Washington Post, by the way, the Washington Post reported on that gun video I showed you earlier. And I just was at the book, I have a book out, it's called Breakthrough. I'll be signing it after the event here. And he was covering the book launch, and he said, you know what? I really liked your gun video. And I said, you liked the gun video? He said, yes, because you're exposing hypocrisy. And the one last thing you can't do is be a hypocrite. You can be left-wing or right-wing or whatever you want to be, but you can't be a hypocrite. So that's what this is about. And exposing fraud, it's clear as day. I'm going to show you some more videos, some of my favorite investigations. In fact, this one is actually into National Public Radio. And the one thing that I learned in my journey, and you can read about it all in Breakthrough, is the fact that the media has a firewall. And it's hard to kind of get through that firewall. They kind of protect these organizations. So I decided, especially, as you pointed out, they hate me so much for what I do. And the only way to kind of get around that was to expose the media. So I actually investigated the media directly. And I think that regardless of what you're standing up for, if you're standing up for the Second Amendment, I think you should have an interest in this, exposing the media, because the media is at odds with the truth. So we decided to investigate National Public Radio, and we posed as members of the Muslim Brotherhood. And we met with the NPR executives. We picked them up in a stretch limousine. They thought we were members of the Muslim Brotherhood. And we met them over dinner at Cafe Milano, a very fancy restaurant in Washington. And we said we wanted to give them $5 million from the Muslim Brotherhood. And this is what happened.
An NPR executive was caught on tape in a conservative sting. This cost the head of NPR her job, and now the federal funding for public broadcasting is under more pressure than ever. Jake Tapper starts us off from Washington. Jake?
Good evening, George. That's right. The CEO of NPR submitted her resignation today. Their chief fundraiser was also shown the door. They're casualties in a war over culture and spending cuts that threatens the very existence of public broadcasting, including Big Bird and Elmo.
Notice how they always show the stuffed animals to try to tug at your heartstrings?
The rain clouds gathering over Sesame Street today are due in no small part to this man, NPR's now former senior vice president for fundraising, Ron Schiller.
You're looking at a sting operation, a setup by people who know how to do it. NPR Foundation executive Ron Schiller thinks he's meeting with a potential donor, but he's actually being punked.
Last month, Schiller went to the posh Georgetown eatery Cafe Milano, where he thought he was meeting potential donors affiliated with the fundamentalist Muslim Brotherhood, who were offering a $5 million donation. He was caught on tape trying to ingratiate himself to the donors by disparaging Jews, the Tea Party, and Republicans.
O'Keefe and his operatives went to great lengths for this sting, even setting up a fake website for the Muslim Education Action Center. Then the operatives, posing as wealthy Muslim donors, set up a meeting at this D.C. restaurant and set up a hidden camera inside. I spoke with NPR President and CEO Vivian Schiller, who's not related to Ron Schiller, over the phone.
The comments made by Ron Schiller are an affront to this organization and are contrary to everything we stand for as a news organization. We stand for diversity of opinion, intolerance, and open-mindedness, and his comments did not reflect those values.
No! Son of a...
Liberals got O'Keefe'd again! Taken in by the Ashton Kutcher of the conservative movement. James O'Keefe, best known for his hidden camera takedowns and for, of course, the least plausible pimp costume ever. Why would a pimp wear ski goggles? Well, how bad could the NPR fundraising executive Ron Schiller have been?
The current Republican Party, particularly the Tea Party, is fanatically involved in people's personal lives and very fundamental Christian, not just Islamophobic, but really xenophobic. I mean, basically, they believe in sort of white, middle America gun-toting. It's pretty scary. They're seriously based.
Anyway, who wants lunch?
So you saw this national public radio executive funded by your tax dollars disparaging you. And after we released this video, that guy, he's the CFO, vice president, he resigned. And then a day later, the CEO of NPR resigned. And then about a week later, the House of Representatives voted to cut off some funding for NPR because of these videos. So people always ask me, what are we going to do? And I'm trying to show you, if you expose the fraud, if you expose the abuse and the hypocrisy, you will get results. And by the way, you also convince people, because nobody defended this guy. The only thing they try to say is that this is fake, that what you're watching is not real. Of course, Ron Schiller, the guy on the tape, actually admitted he made these statements. So he confessed to having been caught on tape, even though people try to say that the whole thing's a hoax and I'm a liar. In fact, he admitted making the statements. So this is another example of just investigating the media directly. And it's something that Andrew Breitbart taught me, going right after them directly, going to their front lawns, literally, going to their place of businesses, and holding them accountable. Another big theme of ours has been election integrity work. And over the last, I'd say, 18 months, spend a lot of time investigating voter fraud, because how can you really advance any issue without focusing on voter fraud and focusing on making sure that your elections are transparent? So in order to do this, we actually went to poll locations across the country. We went to New Hampshire, we went to Vermont, we went to Washington, D.C., and one of my favorite examples was when we went to Washington, D.C. Now, this took a lot of work. We actually went through all the registered voters in the District of Columbia, and then we cross-referenced that list with people who were celebrities. And one of the people we found, I remember seeing it on the list, it was Eric Holder. We found where he was registered to vote in Washington, D.C. And I said, that can't be the Eric Holder. And it was Eric H. Holder. It was the actual Attorney General of the United States. So we went into Eric Holder's poll location. We walked up to the desk where you vote, where Eric Holder is supposed to vote, and we said, hey, basically we implied, hey, can we vote as Eric Holder? Do you have an Eric Holder on your list? And you'll never believe what happened. Or maybe some of you have seen this, but for those of you who haven't seen it, you'll never believe what happened.
More than a prayer of finding out if Eric Holder votes at this Nebraska Avenue church, just ask.
Do you have an Eric Holder?
The poll watcher's answer last Tuesday might dent the Attorney General's ego. The actor confirms the address.
There. I actually forgot my ID.
You don't need it, sorry.
I left it in the car.
As long as you're in here, you're on our list, and that's who you say you are. Okay.
You sign into that poll book, and your signature serves as the verification that you are who you say you are.
Rather than sign and commit a crime punishable by up to $10,000 in fines and 5 years in prison, the actor left and didn't vote. The video sting is meant to refute Holder's contention that those on all sides of this debate have acknowledged that in-person voting fraud is uncommon. And an official in Holder's Justice Department told 9 News Now it is no coincidence that these so-called examples of rampant voter fraud consistently turn out to be manufactured ones. The issue of voter fraud divides Republicans who in general say they support ID requirements to stop fraud, and Democrats who argue it disenfranchises eligible voters who don't have ID.
So this is the actual raw tape I'm going to show you going up to the poll location to demonstrate the weaknesses in our election integrity, this guy actually offers our reporter a chance to vote in the name of Eric Holder.
There.
I actually forgot my ID.
You don't need it, sorry.
I left it in the car.
As long as you're in here, you're on our list, and that's who you say you are. Okay.
I would feel more comfortable if I just had my IDs. All right, if I go get
Sure,
it.
go ahead.
I'll be back faster than you can say furious.
We're not going anywhere.
Thank you.
So as you can see, you know, you can vote in the name of Eric Holder, and it's unbelievable. Now, the Justice Department responded to us that, you know, Holder was in Congress, and he said that we didn't break the law, and I guess he was trying to prove a point. But isn't it great watching these elected officials struggle and get defensive and react? I mean, this is what the First Amendment and journalism should be all about. Holding people accountable, getting them. One of the things I really believe in is not just responding to the government and complaining about the media. It's to get the government to respond to you and to get the media to complain about you. That's how you know you're being effective. And we just released a video this week. In fact, we released an investigation into these so-called Obama phones. How many people have seen this Obama phone? Just this past week, we released this video. All right, I'll show you the new video, and it actually made worldwide headlines. They had to fire all these workers in this Lifeline program. It's called Lifeline. It's a $1 billion program. Give out free phones, and they're known locally to the people who receive them as Obama phones. They credit the president for giving them these free phones. And we go into these locations in Philadelphia and Minnesota.
They're known as Obama phones.
Yeah, we need more phones.
A 2.2.
And we go to these tents they set up in these communities like Philadelphia, Minneapolis, and they're just giving out phones in buckets filled with phones. So I decide to do a little experiment. Go up to the tents and say that I'm a drug dealer and I want to sell the phones to buy drugs. And this is sort of some of the things that we saw.
$1 billion Lifeline program that doles out free phones to anybody who qualifies, all funded by charges that appear on your phone bill. Although the program was started 2 decades ago, both the employees who give out the phones and the people who receive them credit President Obama. The Obama phones, are always giving them out? Yeah. Here in Philadelphia? Congress is currently discussing the waste, fraud, and abuse rampant in the program, so we decided to investigate.
It's kind of a nice small one. Kind of a nice phone. It is. Obama's being really nice. Obama's being really nice. Anybody makes $16,000 a day.
Would these Obama phone workers tell us to take phones we don't actually need? Would they tell us these phones are sold to buy drugs?
It's kind of a question that I've been this here, and unfortunately there are people on drugs. They get this phone and they go get $40.
Would they tell us to sell the phones and break the law?
And on my application, one more question, when I come back on the application, should I put down that I intend to sell it or don't, like...
It's illegal.
It is?
Yeah. There's a guidelines. It's against the law.
And would they tell us, after breaking the law, to plead the fifth?
Totally, like, put the fifth on it.
Okay.
And if we wanted to break the law and use the money from the free phones to buy a Louis Vuitton handbag, what would the worker in this program that you pay for advise us to do?
Just keep it to yourself.
Okay.
So after this video came out, they fired all the workers in that tape, and in fact, they're going to force worker retraining for all of these programs. Now, yeah, of course, worker retraining, you know, they've tried to do this before. And this is not the first time we've done investigations into these sort of entitlements. We did Obama phones. We also did, which is even, in my opinion, more outrageous, we did an investigation into Medicaid fraud. Because a lot of people have said, why don't you go after entitlements, Medicaid? And we did. We went after, in Ohio actually, we went after Medicaid fraud in Ohio. We posed as Russian drug dealers. We actually did this in a couple states, but this is I think this is the one with the funny looking costumes. And we said we were from the Soviet Union. It doesn't even exist anymore. And we even had the red star on our shirt. And we said our name is Sergei and Ivanovich. And we wanted to get Medicaid. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. I mean, I don't know how much I have to do to shock people anymore. But anyways, this is the Medicaid investigation in Ohio.
My name is Evgeny. My name is Sergey. We come from Russia for Medicaid.
The two men pose as wealthy Russian drug dealers who pimp their sisters as young as 12 years old. They're interested in applying for Medicaid benefits for their ailing father, and they visit county job and family services offices in Franklin, Marion, and Madison counties.
So if we're dealing in technically illicit drugs, and if we have girls working for us, they're not going to give us trouble about that. They can't.
Ultimately, they did not actually apply for or receive any benefits. But State Job and Family Services spokesman Ben Johnson says the video is troubling.
If somebody comes in and says, I'm a Russian multimillionaire here illegally dealing drugs, the appropriate response is get out of my office.
Johnson said employees are required to report any suspected child abuse or neglect. It's not clear yet whether that happened in these cases. And at one point, the employee suggests not listing an expensive sports car on the application.
It's not something registered here, maybe I just wouldn't mention it.
Yeah, that's right.
Not that I can say that, you didn't hear that from me.
Right.
Franklin County Job and Family Services placed one employee on paid administrative leave and issued a statement saying the agency will be revisiting how to appropriately handle suspected criminal activity that's shared during an interview. Job and Family Services officials say had the men actually applied, their fraud would certainly have been exposed through the routine investigations conducted on all applications. Ted Hart, NBC4.
So, that wasn't the only one we did. We did one into South Carolina. We posed as a member of the Irish Republican Army. And we said we killed people for a living, got shot in Belfast, and needed Medicaid for our wounds. I don't have enough time to show you all these videos, but they actually gave us 35 Medicaid applications. So it's pretty outrageous, and one of the things that I've learned is that, I've done this here and there, but imagine if I showed 100 videos of Medicaid workers breaking the law. Because what they do is they say, oh, it's an isolated incident. It's a low-level employee. Now we hear that in Washington all the time, low-level employees. Well, if you catch every single low-level employee doing the same thing, it's not isolated, and it's institutional. And that's how you go to the top. But what you have to do is you have to expose the fraud, and you have to do it on a massive scale. Right now I do it on a small scale because I've had very little money. One day, this is the dream, I will be able to have hundreds and hundreds of these videographers all across the country exposing fraud everywhere. And that's how we'll be able to reform society. And I think exposing fraud is the last weapon we have in this country. Sunlight is the last weapon to really reclaim our power as constituents. I do not think any politician is going to really save us. I think it has to be through journalism like this. It has to be through investigative reporting to expend outrage, open people's eyes. And that's what Project Veritas is about, and that's what the story of how all this came to be, and many, many more exciting stories. There's actually one story that I don't have time to tell you about, but in doing this, I've been sued, I've been arrested, I've been defamed. I've actually settled defamation lawsuits with journalists, which is not an easy thing to do if you're a public figure like me. But I've actually gotten money from journalists for defaming me, and I've used that money to fund more investigations. So you can only imagine how much pride that gave me and my colleagues to be able to say to journalists, thank you so much, journalists. You've made all this possible. But it's definitely come at a cost, at a price, not just financially, but reputation. And that's one of the things that they are really good at is Google and Wikipedia and these various other things. But my job is to try to inspire people to let you know that you can do it, you can make a difference. There's one story that we just released this week. It made Drudge, and we were confronting one of the people who tried to prosecute me. I can't make this up. The guy's name, the gentleman who tried to prosecute me in New Hampshire for our voter fraud work, his name was Richard Head, like Dickhead. I don't know what, his parents were thinking. But there's actually a chapter in my new book, and it is actually, let me open the page. The chapter title is actually The Rise of Richard Head. Rise of Richard Head. So I confronted Mr. Head in New Hampshire last week, and I said, Mr. Head, why did you try to indict me for doing journalism? And you just got to see the video because he looks like a Richard Head. And the fact is, he actually admitted on tape, I can't believe this guy came out of his office to talk to me. He's like, yes, we did send you letters, we did work with these hacker-type individuals. Unbelievable stuff. You can't make this stuff up. But that's the great thing. We outrage people by what we show, and hopefully that inspires reform. And the proudest thing is when you see people who are not ideological, people on the right, people on the left, coming together and saying, that's ridiculous. I may not agree with you, James, but what you've exposed deserves to be exposed. And at least if we can have that conversation and agree on that, I think we can come together on some things in our country. So that's my message, and I'll be happy to take any questions you might have.
What the hell possessed you to say, I'm going to be a pimp? I can understand why somebody would do it, but what made you believe that it was even possible to try that stunt and not just get laughed out of office?
That's a good question. Because I watched YouTube videos online of this group, Acorn, and they were squatting foreclosed homes. They were breaking and entering into people's homes, and nobody cared. So I said, if the media doesn't report this, and if the government doesn't care, then I just have to take it to the next level. And in fact, when I was in that Baltimore office, and I had a script, I had a little script I was following, the first thing I would say is, I have a prostitution business, help me. And they helped me. And then I had to improvise. I had to think. So then the next more outrageous, well, I have a prostitution business and I'm going to use the proceeds to fund my political campaign. Now we have corruption. They're like, yeah, that's fine, we'll help you. I said, okay, I have to improvise again. I have underage prostitutes, claim as dependents on your tax forms. Okay, I have to improvise again. Okay, I have 13 underage prostitutes from El Salvador, and I'm trafficking them into the country on cargo ships. And they're like, yeah, that's fine, just make sure you don't tell the cops. So, people always say, how do you do this? How do you know? How did you get started? To me, it's just obvious. Things are with the NSA scandals and the DOJ scandals, and now they're putting journalists in prison. To me, it should be just so obvious that things are outrageous. The key is to expose it in a visually compelling way. And I thought that playing the role of a pimp and a prostitute would really open people's eyes, because that's something we can all kind of be outraged by. We get so many ideas sent to us. We get about 100 good ideas sent to us every month. I can only maybe do one a month, and I just kind of, it's like triage. I just pick one that I think is going to work. We're a nonprofit organization, and we started out. I put a lot of this stuff on my credit card because no one believed that I could do it. People thought I was insane, and finally I got results, and now we're starting to get some grassroots support. All grassroots supporters, much like this organization is grassroots. We have people across the country who believe in us, and a lot of small donors, $20 here, $100 there, and in the aggregate, now we have an office, we have a staff. We have volunteers across the country, and we just wrote a new book, and it was #1 on Amazon, the politics category this week. So it's people like it. Yes.
Now, as I've noticed with some of the embarrassing police videos, states follow off when enforce for strengthening wiretap laws, making it illegal to get these embarrassing videos. Have you seen that?
Oh yeah, they've tried to. Oh yeah, he asked about the laws. They've cracking down on this type of video work across the country, and yes, they are trying to crack down.
So that's something we need to look out for.
Well, in North Carolina, you have one-party consent, which means that you can tape anyone for any reason without their permission.
But they could introduce introduce a bill.
There is some legislation, and I believe the state legislature regarding filming in animal processing plants, for example, is one of the bills that there's. I've never actually done that type of work, but they're trying to pass legislation, I believe, in North Carolina to prohibit that. But I've actually spoken out against that because I'm a radical proponent of the First Amendment, and I think that if you're in public, you don't have an expectation of privacy, especially if you're a public official. But there is some laws you have to be mindful of. Places like California, Pennsylvania, you can't do this type of thing. I've gotten in trouble. If you research me, you'll find that I've had to settle lawsuits, not because I've lied about people in my videos, but because there was a statute that says you can't film someone without them knowing.
Right.
So,
my point is we need to keep an eye out for these types of laws, because today we have the single party consent.
Right.
But tomorrow they might introduce a bill that does away with it, tightens some wiretap laws to the point that we can't embarrass the politicians.
I don't think they're going to be very effective in passing new legislation on one party. I think because all the technology now with cameras and cell phones and these types of things, they're not going to be able to get away with it. But yes, you do have to be mindful of it. I'm a big proponent of the First Amendment. Regardless of your political aisle you're on, I think you should do this type of work.
Are you filming us now?
I think he's filming us now, but
I work for Paul.
And I'm usually not the ones that, I'm not the one people say, oh, everyone recognizes you. Well, I haven't actually, the pimp thing was really the only one I've really been in. All the others, we've had to recruit other people. Yes?
James, have you experienced any local or national media taking the side of the victim that you're going after in any of these videos?
Every single time. Yeah, the media has fought against me every single thing I've done. It's an incredible story. That's why I call it Breakthrough. That's why the book is called Breakthrough, because I'm breaking through the media firewall. Every single time I've done something, the media has been trying to stop me. And I don't understand this. The entire, I guess the heart and soul of the book is trying to examine this and answer this question is, why does the media hate me so much when they're supposed to be doing this type of thing? In fact, they used to do this type of thing. Mike Wallace, there was John Stossel, there was, going back to Chicago Sun-Tribune and Nellie Bly and Diane Sawyer, they used to do this stuff all the time. And, but the media has really been the enemy, so to speak. The media is now in the news suppression business, trying to stop information like real, this is real information. This is not an article processed with a narrative, written up. This is videotape showing fraud, and they do not want you to see it. So, but there are ways through it. One of the ways is to get results. When we get people to resign, we have the Associated Press begrudgingly, oh, now we got to cover O'Keefe's video. And they don't want to talk about it. No, we got to cover it because he forced Congressman James Moran's son to resign because he was talking about voter fraud. So in the Washington Post, there's like a little blurb on B27, guy resigns after video. And you can see just how much they hate having to cover it, but we create news. And you got to break news if you want to change the world. Thank you.